Daniel Cormier should go down as one of the best UFC champions ever, regardless of what happens against Jon Jones on Saturday. That's right, I said it. Cormier is superb. Right now, in this moment, he is superb. It's been over 2 years since the first clash with Jones at UFC 189 and still Cormier is being beaten down by the Jones train? He has reigned supreme, virtually unchallenged in Jones's absence. Still, the questions loom over whether he can be considered a great. The overriding narrative is that if Cormier beats Jones he becomes one of the greatest fighters ever, but if he loses he is confirmed as a fraud. Those are two extreme opposites, polar differences not deserving of a champion like Cormier. Why have we got this strange narrative following him around from fight to fight? Of course he is one of the best ever. He stormed through the 205 pounds division, just as Jones did. Only Tito Ortiz, 1,260 days, has reigned longer than Cormier, while his 2 successive title defenses can only be bettered by legends Ortiz, Frank Shamrock, Chuck Liddell, and Jones. He has wins over Frank Mir, Anderson Silva, Dan Henderson, Alexander Gustafsson, Anthony Johnson, all top-level competitors. Aside from Gustafsson, they're all convincing, dominating victories. He's 19-1 and he only made his MMA debut in 2009 at the age of 30. Cormier has competed in MMA well past his natural peak as an athlete, but has managed to get better and better. The Louisiana native gave his best years to wrestling and yet has still blown through the MMA world and climbed to the top. Now at 37, he is the second oldest champion in the UFC, with Great Britain's Michael Bisping older than him by 1 month. Yet he has the second highest fight time in the division's history. On average, Cormier spends 14.30 minutes in the octagon. He has fought 9 times in the UFC. Cormier is an elite wrestler and has bullied taller, stronger men with ease. In a similar way to Jones's accomplishments aged 23, Cormier has done remarkable things in his 30s. He has shown time and time again there is only one man better than him, Jones. His record doesn't compare to Jones's. Quinton Jackson, Lyoto Machida, Chael Sonnen, Rashad Evans and Ryan Bader have all fallen at Jones's feet. But, this is the problem, Cormier's curse you may say. He has existed at the same time as Jon Bones Jones. Jones is a freak. A once-in-a-lifetime MMA fighter, unique and, so far, unstoppable. Cormier has been an unrivaled champion because of Jones's self-destruction and has benefited greatly from his rival's tendency to self-guillotine. Even when he is partying like a cliched 70s rock star and standing on the edge of oblivion, Jones was still another world talent. It's not like if Jones had remained champion, Cormier would have drifted off into nothingness. If Jones did not implode, would Cormier be champion right now? Logic says no. But, that doesn't mean his career would have been meaningless. Cormier has insisted his legacy is not dependent on beating his nemesis. There are 19 other fights on his record and there will be more without Jones standing opposite him. I've been asked this question a number of times. Do you have to beat Jon Jones to secure your legacy? Cormier told MMA Fighting. How could everything I've done meant nothing if I hadn't beat one person? It makes no sense. I know competitively I need to win this fight, but if all boils down to one person, then do I really want it? Are we so fickle that we can look past 20 other fights? Cormier says it best himself. It's true. If he wins on Saturday he becomes something much more than a UFC all-time great, just because Jones is considered the greatest of all time. If he becomes the only man to beat him, Cormier steals some of Jones's power, but, his career has gone on without Jones and it should be appreciated outside of that rivalry. Yes, Cormier is not as good as Jones, but Jones is not a normal rival. Losing to Jones in 2015 certainly helped Cormier get better and no one would argue he is not a step above the current crop of contenders. It is not DC's fault Jones is a god of MMA, but Cormier is far from a mere mortal taking on Zeus. It's understandable that people find it difficult to separate Cormier and Jones. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Everything Cormier has done in the last 2 years has been to work back towards gaining revenge, while Jones's legacy rests on whether he can return to the octagon and flick DC aside once again. Their stories are intertwined, but their legacies shouldn't be. Cormier deserves more than being known as Jones's inferior. He should be known as Daniel DC Cormier, a UFC great who could not be beaten for 6 years before entering the octagon, who reigned supreme as UFC champion for over 2 years, who could only be stopped by possibly the greatest fighter in the history of MMA. More, Jon Jones labels Daniel Cormier a crackhead with a suit on at UFC 214 press conference. More, UFC 214 potential fight of the night, guaranteed violence between Donald Cerrone and Robbie Lawler.